So, welcome guys. This watch came in for a full service. Unfortunately, there seems to be some condensation under the crystal. Okay, so I'm gonna first assume that there's been water damage. Another thing I want to point out is this white little dot right there. Okay, I'm not sure if you guys can see this correctly. Right there, yes. Okay, you see that white dot right on the dial? It almost seems like that's part of the loop. You guys see that? The reason why I think that's probably the lume is because that's white and all the luminous on this dial here is white. What might have happened was that the water damage actually loosened up the lume and melted it, and it dripped from the hands probably. Now, just in case some of you guys were wondering why I'm saying the circular scratch on the dials from the hands, is because that is way too circular and perfectly round to be anything else. And the only thing that could have happened is the hand. Okay, so we open up the watch, and the first thing you notice are these scratches here. You can see that the screws aren't really so properly taken care of. So that might mean that someone probably worked on this before that. Now, if you take a look over here, it's missing that same case clamp screw that you can see here. Okay, so it's also missing screws now. So we're not really sure what else to expect when we get in. Okay, so we are now going to begin disassembling the entire watch, and let's see what we find. Alright, so during the process of disassembling it, when I pulled out the crown, this is what I find. So you notice that the rust on the stem, you can see all that rust already building up right there. That's not a good sign, okay? So a couple things could have happened. Either the rust inside the movement spread all the way out to the stem and affected the stem, or the water actually got in through the stem and crown, which meant the customer would have left the crown open. Okay, so now that you know the possible scenarios, when we saw the movement, there wasn't much rust around all over in general. So our reasonable deduction is that the water came in through the crown and that the customer left the crown open during water. Alright, so another reasoning that it probably came in through the crown is, notice this rust buildup right here next to the hole for the stem and crown. That is probably where the water settled in also as well on the case screw. Okay, so upon further disassembly, the lume on the dial that I mentioned before is from the hands. If you take a look here, notice that the hour hand right there is actually touching the dial. And you see that white little fleck, the white little speck underneath the hour. This would also make sense because of the circular scratch on the dial is probably due to the white luminous that's touching the dial right there. So when water got in, the luminous probably melted a little bit and it came onto the dial from what. So if you look right there, you can see that the hour hand and the luminous from the hour hand exactly matches up with the exact location of where that luminous on the dial is. If you also notice on the hour hand is rust specks.